Welcome to Metaphysical Worldwide Presents, your weekly podcast for all things metaphysical. I'm Jamie Ahern, and I'm sitting in with
Jen Bergeson, and collectively we are the co-founders of Metaphysical Worldwide. And today on this week's show, we're going to be talking about how not to take it personally, living life with compassion, forgiveness, and empathy. Emotional connection, it's a need for most, if not all, human beings. But with that sometimes comes hurt, pain, and disappointment. How can we minimize those experiences while reinforcing our ability to connect to each other? And, maybe it starts by not taking anything personally. But it's hard though, Jamie, isn't it?
it's it's really hard. And I think in this day and age, after COVID and after, everything that's happened, society as a whole is like on edge, right? I feel like everyone is like on the ledge and they're ready to jump. They just had
Yeah.
a a brawl at Disney because some lady was in a picture and she was asking her to scoot out of the picture so her
What?
family could take a picture. Yeah, two
Are you
families got in,
serious?
no joke. And I'm like, it's a picture. Like, you're at the happiest place on earth. What are you upset about? Like, what? Why do you feel the need to punch another person in the face? Like,
Yeah. Also, one of the most expensive places on earth,
I
too, mind
know.
you. You're paying all that money to get
Yes,
inside the park, and you want to fight over a goddamn picture. That's ridiculous.
exactly. Over a fucking picture. So I
Yeah.
think that society as a whole, we're on edge
Hmm.
and we forget how to show that sympathy or empathy for another individual or even have that compassion. Look at our homeless rate. Like it's
Right.
huge and it's hard to everybody's in a struggle, right? We're all in
Hmm.
a struggle. So it's hard to have like that empathy for another person
Hmm.
because you're going through shit too.
Well, it's also the fact that our technology is moving so quickly that, you bring up a great point about COVID, right? And we were isolated, and
hmm
that was a three-year long thing, right? And
Yeah.
we relied so heavily on technology, connecting with people through
hmm
whatever platform that you chose. But it's difficult for human beings if you don't have face-to-face contact with another human being. Like there's a lot that you miss. Like
Yes.
you don't miss
Yes. Yes.
the verbal cues and
hmm
the facial expressions and the
Right.
mannerisms. If you're texting somebody or messaging them,
Yeah.
unless you're video chatting, I suppose. But even then, you don't get the same vibe unless you're in person.
Yeah. It's hard to get that vibe, right?
Yeah,
Because
it really
you're
is.
not like being, we've talked about this before in our previous podcast about, um, how you have to find yourself, things like that, and you feel a
Hmm.
certain way. Like you connect with people and you see things because you can feel it, or you see
Hmm.
in pictures. I'm sorry, I feel things. So it's like it's
Hmm.
hard to get that interaction, but text and that's constantly taken out of context. I mean,
Oh,
you can type
constantly.
something and it can mean one way and you're like, I wasn't yelling, I just was it.
Yeah, talk about
And
taking it personally, like literally,
yeah,
and I'm guilty of that too,
like
because
what?
I would prefer to hear someone's voice
Yeah,
than to text somebody, right? But try to get somebody on the phone in 2023, forget it. Like nobody
right.
has the time, right?
They
So
could
it's
be
like,
like, hold on, and you're like, hold on.
yeah,
What the fuck do you mean, hold on, bitch?
yeah.
But
But
it's
at
like,
least,
no, I'm peeing. Hold on a second.
yeah, at least like some apps will allow you the ability to do a voice note, which is, I would still rather do, like, if I'm talking to somebody every day, I'd rather hear their voice. Like send me a
hmm
voice note. Do not, send me like an actual typed
Yeah.
out message. Occasionally is fine, but for me, I need that kind of level of connection to keep it going.
hmm
But let's face it, people can be horrible, right?
They
In
can.
general, and we understand that everybody operates at their own level of consciousness. And I think that's for me where I can stand back and say, you know, and maybe they're being a shitty human being. Yeah, maybe they're treating me poorly,
hmm
but literally they're operating at their own level of consciousness. And I don't know if, I can have compassion for them that they're stuck and they're not willing to put in the work for their growth because they can't see how shitty they're being.
hmm
Um, but I don't know if I have to forgive them right now. We're going to talk about that too in a little bit, but it's just
Yeah.
like I just had to throw that in there.
I know. I know. I think yeah, people can be horrible. And I think it's I this is a really good conversation because I'm on the fence. I'm listening to you and I'm like, yeah, yes, yes, have compassion.
Hmm.
But I think that I think I might feel like majority of people feel like I just don't, I'm just fucking over it. Like
Yeah, I
uh,
know.
I'm tired of people like, oh, that triggered me, or like just something, or or
It's
people
always
not
something,
saying,
isn't it?
yeah, not saying I'm sorry, or not understanding, or even the worst thing is not understanding what I'm in the middle of. Like
Right.
I
Or not even
I
caring. They don't even ask.
no, no,
Yeah.
you have a conversation with them and it's like, hey, how, it's nobody, say for example, no one, I don't hear from anybody. So you talk to them and it's all about them. You're like, well,
Yeah.
I
Lack
guess,
of compassion. Yeah.
and that's really hard because like we talked about before, you have to set your boundaries for your own personal
Hmm.
self and so you can have compassion with yourself, right? And empathy for yourself. So it's like, where's that boundary? Where's that line of allowing myself to have
Yeah.
compassion for someone else, but also
Hmm.
setting that boundary like, wait a minute, you know.
You're right. I think you're on track. Um, to you set me up to make a really great point, is what I'm trying to say, right? Because when it
But in
comes to other,
boom.
yeah, exactly. I can't do the drum roll like you, but yeah, when it comes to other people's behaviors, I think, where we have our own boundaries, I think part of my personal boundaries is recognizing when someone's projecting onto me, right?
Okay.
Or recognizing when they are self-sabotaging the relationship, right? Or
Ah,
recognizing that they are just completely fucking unaware of themselves. That's
yeah.
one of my boundaries. And it's like, look, okay, so I'm seeing you
Mm-hmm.
like projecting onto me. So because I have a boundary with that, I'm going to tell you, hey, I think you're projecting onto me. If they don't get it, okay, now you're unaware of yourself. You're not
Yeah,
self-aware.
right, right.
All right. And because you keep doing it, now you're sabotaging the relationship because I'm not going to stay. I'm not
Okay.
going to stay.
I like
But
that.
when we talk about boundaries, and I don't know if we've ever really brought this up before, but maybe we have. I don't know. You got to
I
tell
think this
people
can
what your
go,
boundaries. Yeah, I
sorry,
think
Jen,
so.
I didn't mean to,
No,
but
you're good.
I think this can fall into that though.
Yeah.
I think what we're saying is like we have to have the like we're not taking it personally. We are giving compassion, but we also have to give compassion for ourselves and like
Oh my God,
make
yes.
make those boundaries and know where they are. And you're
Yeah.
going to lose people in your life, but you're also
Hmm.
going to gain people in your life. And I think that that's allowing yourself that grace going through
Yeah,
when you're going through your shadow work, which we've talked about before. Like that's
absolutely.
really really difficult because you're going to bring up old shit and you're going to be the projector. You could be having the problems of projecting on people and
Exactly.
um so giving yourself grace,
Yeah, you
but
gotta be honest
also
with yourself. Be
be
honest.
aware.
Be
Yeah.
aware of
Yeah,
yourself. Be aware of who you are. But that's an excellent point. Like, I mean, we talk about compassion for other people, forgiveness and empathy for other people. Motherfucker, have it for yourself.
for
You know?
sure. Number
I
one,
mean, number
you are
one,
number one because
that's your
what I've learned,
responsibility.
even though my husband's great, my children are great, you're great. Um,
I try.
you're great. And
Thank you. You were too.
you do look out for me. You check on me and I check on you and things like that. But if I can't have those types of things for anyone else if I'm not doing it for myself, like how am I able to express all that? You your tank runs dry and then
Hmm.
you're left with nothing if you giving it all away and you're not putting yourself first, if that
Right. I
makes
mean, it
sense.
comes down to knowing your worth. And that does sound cliche, but it is absolutely true. You've got to know your worth. You got to stick with people who value you.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you encounter somebody who doesn't treat you well, right? Or maybe you ignored those red flags or whatever it was, have compassion for yourself
Right.
that you went through that, or maybe you
Mm-hmm.
purposely didn't see it, or, maybe you were the one self-sabotaging the relationship. Have compassion for yourself, have empathy for yourself because it
Right.
started somewhere. So yeah, get involved in the shadow work for sure. And learn to forgive yourself for things that you would not have put yourself through had you had
Right.
known better, right? We've all
You
been
know,
there. We've all been there.
yeah, we have. So I'm listening to you and it's like I have so many things going on in my head right now. And
Oh God. This
I
is going
know
to be a good show, I have a feeling.
I want like, okay, at what point, right? You have compassion for somebody, but at what
Hmm.
point after they've been so shitty time after time after time again that
Hmm.
you lose that you just can't have compassion anymore. You're just like, you know what?
Hmm.
I can't deal with this. I'm done.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great question. It really is. At the point where you become indifferent. That for me,
okay.
it's when I become indifferent towards someone,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the ability to have compassion or empathy for you because
Mm.
I indifference for me means I've removed my emotion. I'm not emotional about you anymore. So, and as a practicing witch, like I've kind of, that's where I am with energy work too, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
energy and vibration equals emotion in the physical. So it's kind of like, hey, if I've separated myself from you, I can no longer feel you. I can no longer connect with you. I don't have emotion towards you. Therefore, I don't have any genuine compassion for you. You're like a non-entity to me. That's just my take on it from my personal experience. It's like detachment. I
Yeah, I
completely
can see
detach.
that.
But I'm
And
a Capricorn too, so
yeah, we'll see, I'm a Virgo, so I'm a nurturer. So
hmm.
it's like I get I want I want to back away and I can't do it, but then I do automatically feel bad and I have the nurturing and then you're sucked back in and then you're this and you're sucked back in.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that it's you have to be able to identify it and just be okay with, you know what, I have to let this person go.
Hmm.
I have to let it go because it's not good for my mental health. It could be bad for, your family. It could, whatever the case may be, it could just be a toxic thing that at
Yeah,
this point, compassion is just not going to change anything. And you have to
right.
have that point, the compassion for yourself to let it
Correct.
go, to be like,
Right.
okay, I'm letting this go and I'm moving on. But
Yeah, and I think that's why we say don't take it personally, right? Because like
yeah,
every single day you have the ability to wake up and take inventory in your life, right? So if you allowed it, or maybe it snuck up on you and somebody had bad intentions towards you and then you just found out and you didn't realize. So either you were blind to it or whatever, or you allowed it. I mean, honestly, don't take it like don't beat yourself up because you were
yeah,
in that. That's what we mean by don't take it personally.
yeah.
It's like sitting around beating yourself up over something that
Hmm.
you know another person did, or it's not worth it for you and your mental
Yeah,
health. I'm glad you brought up the mental health aspect
right.
because people can fall into like really deep depressions over how they've
Yes.
been treated by other people, and
Hmm.
it's like I just
And
sit there
mental
and
health
it's
is
like
huge right now.
huge.
It's huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean,
um Go ahead.
why even have compassion for shitty people? I mean, it's like they don't even
Mm,
care. They don't have the compassion for themselves, or they don't have that for themselves enough to be a better person. Why is it our, you
hmm.
know, job to,
I
not
I can
job, but
Yeah, I can honestly tell you I don't. I don't have compassion for them. And again, it's because of my level of energy work. I would say this to people out there like and that's so funny because the title of the show is Living Life with Compassion, Forgiveness, and Empathy. I have compassion for myself when it comes to that. I mean,
yeah.
if somebody is just walking around being a shitty person, taking advantage of other people, what do I care
Hmm.
what happens to them? I don't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't. What comes around goes around. So to me, it's like, I mean, I have compassion for the victims of that person, right?
Yes.
And I have empathy, like, for what they're going through daily. You think of somebody, typically, you'll think of somebody who was the victim of like a narcissist or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, oh God. I mean, sure, yeah, I have compassion for those victims, right? And I mean,
Hmm.
I've had narcissistic people in my life, like, and I have compassion for myself. Like, man, I wish I didn't have compassion for that motherfucker because I wouldn't have stayed as long as I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that's where I'm saying where the detachment for me personally in that energy work, it's like, man, I can cut somebody out so quick. And it's and at this point, it's because I've learned that I don't deserve that shitty behavior being
Yeah.
done to me. And I don't
Yep.
I don't need to put up with it, you know?
Yeah.
So I have compassion for myself and you know, I don't know about the
Yeah,
shitty people. I don't know about them.
but if you do, you'll stop it'll stop you from feeding on the anger and the fear, right? That lowers
Yeah,
your vibration. So,
it does, but so does for me. So does detachment. Because
mm-hmm.
again, detachment for me equals not bringing an emotional um, factor into it. So I'm not. I don't have any fear or anger because I don't have any emotion.
Yeah,
Now, and so people can choose to do what they want. It took me years to get there, though, Jamie. It wasn't
yeah,
like, because most of us are just like, and we're raised in those environments where it's like, oh, you got to have, compassion and empathy for people. And it's like,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I see that. And I do for victims, people who are victimized, I do.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes,
people who are perpetrators, people who intentionally go out of their way to do harm to people,
yeah.
yeah, I can't, I just like I can't do it.
Yeah, I can't either. I can detach from that, you know.
Yeah,
I can have a compassion for, seeing somebody and they're hungry. Yes,
yeah,
okay. I'm sure whatever
of
situation
course.
got you to this point, I'm sure there's more that you can be doing, but in this moment you're hungry. Let me here's an apple or whatever,
Exactly. There you go. I mean, and you're not
Um,
going to judge because you don't know their whole story. You're not going to judge
no, and I
people,
think that's what it
right?
is. Don't taking it personally because you can't, you haven't walked in their shoes. That's so cliche too. You
Well, right,
haven't, you don't
right.
understand where they were going. But somebody that is, you know, hurting children or
Oh
things like
God,
that. No,
fuck
no,
them.
I don't think that's what we're talking about here.
No, we're not. We're
We're
not. They
not
don't just.
talking about that
Well,
here. We're talking
right.
about, having more compassion for yourself and
Mm-hmm.
being able to get your emotions in check and
Mm-hmm.
not taking it personally when somebody asks you, "Hey, can you scoot over so my family can take a picture?"
Exactly. Yeah.
And you don't turn around and punch them in the face.
Right. And if there was ever such thing as a three-sided coin, it would be this conversation, right? Because
Yeah.
you'd have the compassion for yourself, the forgiveness and empathy for yourself, but you'd also have that for people who are victimized, right? That you don't know,
Hmm.
or you read a news story or whatever about a family who lost everything in a fire. Like, of course you're going to
Yeah.
feel compassion for them, right?
Yeah.
Um, and but then there's that third side, if you will, of the people in your life that truly just made a mistake, and you can tell that they are genuinely remorseful, I think, right? Like, so you
Yes.
you could so there's a difference between shitty people and a person who does a shitty thing.
Oh, yep. Yes.
Yep.
I think
So
say that again
that's
because that's
I'm
important
gonna
key.
I'm gonna say it again. There's the difference between a shitty person and someone who just did a shitty thing to you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the ability to recognize. But patterns, right?
Yes. Patterns.
Patterns, yeah, they repeat, they turn into trends with people.
Hmm.
So that's where we're telling people, hey, look, don't take it personally. If this person is showing you who they are with repeated patterns that turn into trends, like every 30th of the month, I know that they're going to come ask me for $10 or whatever the fuck it is,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That's a
Exactly.
trend. Okay. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
using that for example. I don't have another good example right now, but that's where you can say, hey, wait a minute, what is going on here? And that's
Right.
why you and I talk so much. And for the people who are listening to this now, go back and listen to our prior shows because we do talk about patterns and trends a little bit where we're like, you've got to start noticing, you've got to start looking at your life,
Mm-hmm.
looking at the people that are involved with you, and really following those patterns and trends. Like, is it a healthy thing for you or not? Because when it comes to a point where you're just like, nah, I can't fucking do this anymore. That's where you have to decide, where does my compassion, forgiveness, and empathy go? Does it go to them? Does it go
Right.
to me? Who does it go to?
Yeah.
Now
Exactly.
I'm on team you. Other people, I'm going to say, give it to yourself. Other people might say, no, you should give it to them. Fuck them if they done something to
They
intentionally harm you.
continue,
If they
they continue
continue.
to do the same thing. Like,
Yeah. I hate to say it like that,
and
but
I hope this doesn't trigger anyone, but if somebody is abusive and then they say, I'm sorry, it won't happen again, and they
yeah.
do it again. I'm sorry. I mean, the first time it should be
Mm,
the last time always,
yeah.
but I'm not in anyone else's shoes, so I can't,
It's hard.
not
And so,
judging. But
yeah,
what I'm
it's hard.
saying is you have to build that trend, right, Jen? You see
Hmm.
that, and then you
Yes.
have to start. understanding like you got to start putting yourself first. And, you
That's right.
know, forgiveness is also another part of having compassion, wouldn't you say?
Um,
Or the lack
it,
of, or
yeah, I mean, it's not always easy to forgive people, and there's no
yes,
there's no easy answer, right? Like
no,
forgiveness comes
no.
with time, it comes with reflection and perspective. I
Hmm.
feel like I would never sit there and there are some people out there, they're like, you've got to forgive whoever, X, Y, and Z,
Yes,
or Joe Schmo.
right.
You got to free. I would never look at somebody who has been victimized or who is hurt and say, man, you really need to forgive somebody.
It'll
No,
make you feel better if
it'll
you
make you feel
forgave
that,
them.
you know what? Not necessarily.
Yeah. What is that gonna, me
Who's getting the
saying the
benefit?
words, right?
Who gets the benefit, Jamie?
The other person, not you. And I think we talked about this before. Like, okay, you can do a shitty thing to me. We have an
Yeah.
argument, whatever. You say, you know what, I'm sorry. I was a shitty person. Wasn't, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate your
exactly.
apology. Thank you very much. I'm not ready to continue. I'm not ready to be like best friends again. Give me some
Right.
time. I need to let this simmer.
Hmm.
Just because you say you're sorry or you apologize or you go out of your way to show you're apologizing doesn't necessarily mean that other person is ready to give their forgiveness or to move past the situation because it could have affected them in many different ways. And even that, don't take it personally. If someone's not ready to forgive, you have to do forgiveness in their own time.
I would agree with that. And I also think that, you can still have some compassion and empathy without completely forgiving somebody. Like I said, like you can look at them and say, "Hey, I I see why I see why you scammed me out of that money because you're not capable of getting a job, so I have compassion and empathy for you because you're not or whatever the hell the case may be." But you don't have to forgive them. And I think sometimes when you talk about friends too, right? Or
Yeah.
close personal relationships, you will notice if you're actively involved in your energy work, right? You're going to notice the
Hmm.
shift between yourself and another person, even if
Right.
two people together, one does something to the other, and then the other person says, "Oh, I'm really sorry I did that. I didn't mean to." It's never, man, it's never really the same after that, is it?
Yeah, no. And I think
Yeah, that energy is different.
that's a good topic for another show because
It
what you
is.
said there just made me think of something like um it's something in, I think it was in college, but when you're in a conversation with somebody, there's two energies. One person's going to walk away feeling really good about the conversation, and one person's going to walk away like, huh.
Hmm.
So unless there's like something that is agreed upon, they both separate the same time and, your
Hmm.
energies are fine. But that's another topic for another time with talking about energies in a conversation and dealing with other people. I think
Well,
you
yeah, definitely.
you can forgive, but you have to with your boundaries, again with your boundaries, right?
Well, sometimes forgiving, what does that do, right? It means that you're actually disregarding your own boundaries sometimes, right?
Yeah, if you forget, like if you're not ready, if you say, and I'm sure you've done this before. They're like, I'm
Oh God,
sorry, I'm
yeah.
so sorry. And like, okay, okay, I forgive you. I forgive you. And you're
Yeah.
right. That energy is never the same because you weren't really
It's
ready to
never the same.
forgive that person.
Yeah.
You were only forgiving them in the moment to make them feel better.
Hmm.
So that's why that energy is not going to be the same because you weren't at that point yet to really forgive. It was just all
Hmm.
talk. Or
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
what if
I mean,
the
it doesn't lessen the pain anymore. I mean, I think that's where you have to like for me when that happens, I jump into my shadow work. I jump into my third person
hmm
perspective exercise. And if anyone's curious about that, they can go back to the healing journey slash shadow work show that we did, I think 2 weeks ago now,
yep.
where we talked about the third person perspective. So I can get because what the goal is for me, Jamie, and this is part of the energy work I talk about. Part of the goal for me is to get rid of the emotion.
Okay, because you
Okay, and that's how
you
I
want to
do it.
disconnect.
I want to disconnect, I mean, because to me, I know it's inevitable that I'm going to take it personally if my emotions are attached
Yes.
to it
Well,
because I'm
it's who
human,
you
like,
are. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why it's like this is how I cope with it personally.
Hmm.
When somebody does, and I know that I'm ready to split from them. I know that I'm ready to go no
Right.
contact. I know that this is over. It's never going to be the same. I don't want the to be involved with them on the same level. Um,
Hmm.
it's almost like an emotional reset for me.
Yeah. Take that ritual bath, girl. Get up in
Oh,
there.
yeah, definitely. The ritual baths are great too. We should do a show on that. Cleansing, like ritual
Oh yeah,
baths,
for
like
sure. That
yeah,
would
how
be
to protect
great.
your home, like all those things, all those witchy things. I'd love to do that. Um,
So,
mm,
what about like empathy?
mm.
Like
Well, we said that before. Yeah, go ahead.
can you really have compassion without empathy?
Yeah, no, I don't really think so. I mean, I think that they're pretty tied together. Like, think of a situation where you would have compassion without empathy. I mean, I really struggled when I was writing up notes for the show. I was like, I can't think of any. I really can't think of a situation.
So back to compassion without empathy, and can you? So, say for example, you go get off the same exit every time and there's the same person asking for money every time. I can have compassion for their position that they're in. Like, oh
Hmm.
man, that sucks. It's hot outside. I have compassion that you're doing that, but I don't empathize with you because why? Like, I sometimes cannot empathize because it's like, there's got to be something you can do.
Hmm.
There's got to be. And, that's my own personal thing. It's not every person that I see that's out there. I
Hmm.
know they have other problems. And so I don't know, is that different? Is that the same?
Well, I mean, I can have empathy for people. Um, I think, like, especially like, not that I've ever stood on a street corner and asked for money. I've never had to do that in my life. I'm very fortunate, right? But
Yeah.
especially with the way that our economy is right now, people can't make it, man.
No,
They
I
can't
definitely know that. I
even with
definitely
two,
know that.
yeah, even with like two jobs, people are still living in their cars and struggling. So I think where my train of thought goes is I think back to those times in my life, maybe where I was in a similar situation, maybe not the exact situation, but that's where my empathy comes from. Like I can relate to you because man, I've been there. I've had hard times, you know what I mean? Married with kids and no fucking money to speak of. Like I remember those days. And so I
Yeah.
can have empathy for things like that. Or I can have empathy for someone who really screwed up. They made an honest mistake with me,
Yes.
right? They made a really, and it's like they wish that they didn't do it, but they did it anyway, right? For whatever their self serving reasons were. I have empathy for the fact that you felt so desperate to fuck someone like me over because I'm not the one that you want to do that to. Like my level of loyalty to people in my inner circle, man, it's huge,
What?
right? So
Yeah.
you mess with someone like me, right? Like you're losing. I have empathy for you because now
Hmm.
you've lost me, but it's like
Yes, yes.
but it's like
And
but the compassion is like for I don't know. It's like I'm gonna have maybe one or the other. Maybe that's the example I was trying to look
yeah,
for,
yeah,
you
I
know?
think maybe I have them backwards. And don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I I have compassion for anyone out there that's struggling. It's hard.
of course.
My husband and I struggled. We didn't
Hmm.
have things easy. Nothing was handed to us.
Right.
But I think that it's if I you can tell that maybe I don't know, there's just certain people you can tell that I don't know. It just I think I'm digging myself into a hole. My
No,
point
you're good.
is, um, my
That's what the
point is
show's for, Jamie, is digging yourself into a hole.
I know,
Haven't you
you
noticed
could
that?
tell that maybe they're, using drugs or it's like
Yeah.
there's got to be something and I still will help out. I'll still do what I need to do, but
Hmm.
um it's just I know it's hard. So maybe you're right. Maybe I cannot have compassion without empathy and um
There might be certain situations where you
maybe
can,
I
though.
need not take it personal. Maybe I need to do that.
Yeah, I think, that's the whole thing is, if you can get to that point, I think that's why we're doing this show, right? Is because people especially we started talking about the human connection the beginning of the show and
Yeah.
technology and how it's taken over and we don't. So it's kind of like the second you get that any little human connection from somebody that you met online and then it goes south,
Yeah.
I feel like it puts you into a deeper hole. And that's, I think, after 40 minutes of talking, this is the point of the show. It's like trying to
Yeah.
give people hope that, look, don't take that shit personally because they're going to like they're probably doing it to other people too. You're not the only
Yes.
one, number one, that they're doing it to.
So when you empathize with someone, you're really acknowledging that you understand where they are, because you might have been there at some point, in
Hmm.
your life. So I think that you can have both empathy and compassion.
You might, yeah. I mean, I guess like I think there's situations though where they can be completely separate, and I
Okay.
think it's just your perspective on it and actually the individual situation.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. But how do you actively practice compassion, forgiveness, and empathy? How do you?
Well, it just naturally arises for me in a
Mm-hmm.
moment of, I mean, I don't actually sit back and say, look at this fucked up situation. I'm going to throw some compassion in there. Look at this motherfucker. They need some empathy. I don't sit there and say that. I think,
No,
if
no.
you're capable of having those things naturally, it's
Mm-hmm.
good. You're going to naturally feel it. And so where I was talking about doing the energy work and separating and disconnecting from people, it's for the people that I don't think they fucking deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's
I don't
true.
want to feel because the opposite of that compassion and forgiveness and empathy for especially someone who's wronged you, it's the pain that you have to fucking go through.
Yeah,
And why should I subject
exactly.
myself to that?
Continuously. Right, right.
Continue
So
exactly.
I think maybe it's a little bit of tough love on yourself to set those boundaries and, stop trying to save everybody. And people have to, people do have to eventually start saving themselves, you know?
Mm,
But,
mm-hmm,
but you can be that role model or that person they could say, they can look to,
mm-hmm.
kind of
Do
like
you think people are really out there actively trying to save other people though?
in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are. I think there's a small few out there still trying to make it happen. I mean, it's
They're just
just
looking for people to like
no, not actively
save.
out there like a
I
freaking flying around with a fucking cape, like who needs saving
well,
today?
yeah,
No, but I
exactly. That's what I'm
think
saying. That's my
but I
question.
think what I think is maybe I don't, Jen, I don't fucking know. But what I'm saying is
Mm-hmm.
they might be just built that way that they see something and they want to fix it and
They want to
save
fix
them.
it. Yeah.
And, they might put themselves through pain or suffering because they want to fix that person. They believe that
Mm-hmm.
person can be saved. It's just so hard now because everything is so sensitive. There's so many subjects that
Mm-hmm.
are sensitive. There's
Oh, I
so many
know.
things you cannot say, you do say,
Mm-hmm.
you don't say. What the fuck can we even say anymore? I don't
Nothing.
fucking know.
We
You
have
can't
nothing to
fucking say
say.
anything.
We have nothing to say, but yet we have a show.
If you just can't say anything right now,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to even be a person. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think it has to start with yourself. Like just,
They like I know they get into that like when friends want to give you advice, like if you're in a
oh
relationship with
yeah,
somebody and they're
yeah,
like, "Oh, why are you trying to save that person?" It's like,
yes,
listen, just because I do for somebody doesn't mean I'm trying to save them. And I think
yes.
that offends me. I get offended by
You
that.
know,
I
I've
really
lost,
do, Jamie. I get
I've,
offended by that. I just slammed my fist on the desk.
I can
I'm
tell.
sorry. Did you hear it?
I
Want me to
did.
do it again? There we
Do
go.
it, girl.
I just
Fucking
did it.
hate that
Fucking hate
because
it. Just because, look, a partnership is never going to be 50-50.
perfect.
It's
No,
never going to be an equal 50-50.
absolutely not.
So if somebody that I love or that I'm with or I'm dealing with is not doing okay and they need a little bit of help in some way, shape, or
Hmm.
form, whatever that means, yeah. And if I can do it, why not? It
Yes.
doesn't mean I'm trying to
But
save
that's
somebody,
your right. That's what you have the right
Oh,
to do
it just
that.
aggravates me.
I've lost a lot of friends in that
You,
way because my husband and I have been together for 20 years. And in 20
mm,
years, a lot of fucking shit happens and you
Yeah.
go through a lot. And when you're in the beginning and you're little babies and you're working on a relationship, where do you go when you need to talk to somebody? Your friend. Oh, he's an
Hmm.
asshole. Oh, why you put up with that? Oh, this. And at the time you're like, yeah, that's what I need to hear. But that's well, this is when we were young.
Hmm.
That person doesn't need to hear that. That person needs to hear, like, just needs you to listen, because then you
Right.
lose that friend. That friend is you're never gonna have the same energy with that friend again, because you
No, you're
go
not.
back, you work on your relationship, everything's great, and then
Oh my God.
it's like now it's
Tell me
weird,
about it.
right?
Listen, you don't have to tell me how many relationships, situationships do I get myself into where
Yeah,
nobody likes her. No, nobody
right.
likes her. And you're like, oh my God. And everyone's like, why will you bother? Why do you even want to bother with this one?
Well,
But then I do
yeah.
bother because
Mm-hmm.
of whatever, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, I understand what you're saying. I
It's
haven't
something
lost
you
any
see.
friends over it, but it's one of those things where
Well,
sometimes, yeah, and then I sit there and I go, oh my God, all the fucking times you've come to me with your
right.
bullshit fucking things and you can't listen to one thing of mine, give me a break. But
I
you're
I
right, it's
think
never the same. Like,
there's there's good meaning behind it. Like, they want to be a good friend and they think they're
hmm
being a good friend. I have friends that, have problems in their relationships, but I don't necessarily look at their spouse any differently, because
right.
you know what? I have my relationships can be fucked up. Who am I to look at your relationship and think that person isn't any better than I am? Like, so I've always told that to my friends. Like, look, I'll listen and I'll give you my biased opinion, and that's not going to change the way I look at him or her. Like, it's fine,
Do
because
you have
I've
do you ask
matured out of that.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I need to ask you this because you're onto something here, and I want to know in these situations, because I feel like we're a little bit on a roller coaster here, but it all ties in together somehow.
It does.
Um, have you ever had to sit there and ask your friend or say to them or mention to them, hey, can you have a little compassion with me right now? Can you show me a little compassion for what I'm going through? Can you give me a little empathy? Have you ever had to do that?
I have, but not, but with my mom.
It's grueling, isn't it?
With my mother, yes. Like, if I'm just, and I'm just like, listen, yeah, and bless my mom, okay? I'm not the nicest person to her at times, because
Well,
I can snap at her and I know she's going to forgive me, and it's not any excuse to be
well, how
mean
was
to
your
your
Mother's
mama.
Day then? I hate to, no, I mean, I was just being, I was
No,
not having compassion right there. I was just being an
no,
asshole. I'm sorry. How was your
no,
Mother's
but
Day?
But what I'm saying is, yes, I have. I've had, like, okay, I just need you to listen to me and to understand and to just have a little sympathy and compassion for what I'm feeling right now. And then we'll get past it. Like, I just need that hug. I just need that for
Hmm.
in this moment. And
Yeah.
I think it's okay to look at your spouse, because I've done that to my partner too.
Hmm.
Um, I've had to say, like, I don't need you to fix the problem right now. I just need you to listen and to hold me. Like, this is what I need right now. And I
Hmm.
think that's okay, because you're you're kind of putting yourself first, but you're also letting them know, listen, this is what I need right now. Let's work through this, and then we can try to figure it out, right?
And that's a great way to actually not take it personally because he may have
Yeah.
not been in a space where he was recognizing that you were having that need.
Yes.
And we're not always because we have a thousand things going on in our minds. So
Oh
it's
my
kind
God,
of
a
like
thousand.
a thousand, right? So I think like that's I mean, but I'll tell you, I'm kind of a hard ass. Like if I have to ask you more than once, see, because for me, I feel like this person just doesn't get me. They don't get
Okay.
me at all. They don't see when I am genuinely hurt because I have
Mm,
such a strong like presence, a strong like
yes.
I never break down, like I'm not a crier, like
Right.
I'm one of those things. But so when that happens and I'm pushed to that brink, and I'm showing that raw emotion like that and they don't recognize like you don't see that I'm completely off my fucking chain right now.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you literally can't see that. So if I have to ask you more than once, man, forget it.
Right.
Forget it.
Do
You're
you
no like I don't even want to be a part of this anymore.
do you think, because you made a good point, like, my husband has said that to me before too, like, you know, I wasn't seeing that, his needs at the time. And it's
Mm.
because I think, I'm so wrapped up, not in myself, but my children and my day, da, 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 da. And
Mhm.
he's the strong one, and he's the practical one. He's the one that gets shit done. And, he's my rock, and he's da, 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 and he's always just going. And
Yeah.
um, do you think that maybe it's a shock to the other person if like you're crying, like, wait a minute, they're crying. But for me,
I think so. To
I
be
would freak
fair,
out if I
to be fair,
seen
I
him
know.
cry. Like I'd be like, "Oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me stop and this is serious."
Yeah, to be fair, I do think it's a shock, and I think it puts that other person into fear because they're like, "Oh my God, if you're the one who holds the glue together, like
Yes.
you're the glue that holds everything together," is
Yes.
what I'm trying to say. But like the second you're falling apart, now everything is falling. Like it
Exactly.
right, it puts them into a fear-based state, um but you said you would stop and you would acknowledge it. What I'm saying is
I would.
if
Yeah.
someone doesn't stop and acknowledge it and I'm like that, man,
Oh yeah,
like
they got to kick
that's it.
rocks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got to kick rocks for fucking real. Because I mean, it, all right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I hate to cut it short, but we are almost at time. I just want to
Hmm.
kind of quickly recap because I do feel like we've been all over the place, but we're not scripted here, are we?
No, this
We
is
don't give
totally
a shit.
unscripted. We
Totally
don't give a shit.
unscripted.
Things
Some, hmm
things go sideways sometimes. It goes left, but
It goes left, right,
that's
yeah,
up,
center,
down. But I think that's why you and I decided to do this, because our conversations do that sometimes, but it
all the
always in the
time.
but I think in the end we're kind of getting our point across. And
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
my main point to people, which may be different than your main point, right? And I think that's
of course.
the importance of conversation and being open and honest about how you feel about things, right? So my main point, just to recap the entire show for people, in case they did get lost in the message, my my point is this: it's simply, when you're looking at your life and thinking about compassion, empathy, and forgiving people, right? I think you should take yourself into account first, right? Just look at
Hmm.
yourself, be forgiving and compassionate with yourself first. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes we don't allow ourselves to have feelings. We always want to put other people before us, but you got to stop and validate yourself every now and then. If you're hurt, right?
Yes.
If you've done something wrong, you got to own it and you got to forgive yourself for that. You can't expect
Yes.
forgiveness from anybody else unless you have done the work to forgive yourself, and feel empathy for that person in the way that you
Hmm.
hurt them. So it works both ways. But Jamie,
Yeah.
what are your takeaways?
I think it's pretty in line with yours.
Mm.
Do not feel obligated to forgive someone to make them feel better, right?
Oh, exactly.
Forgiveness is definitely it's your own personal journey that you have to develop and get through to get to that
Hmm.
point of feeling you're there, you're ready to move past it. Even if that person, has apologized, that's great. If you're not ready to move past it,
Then
it's
don't.
okay. And give yourself that grace to know that it's okay.
That's
Um,
right.
and yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think that's a really solid reflection
That
of
that's a
this.
yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. And also, don't take anything personally. Why do we say
Yeah,
that?
don't take it personally.
Again, because everyone is at their own level of consciousness. They
Hmm.
understand things differently than you, maybe sometimes. And also, you know, everyone's still learning. You have to understand
Yeah.
that. Everyone's growing and learning. So just don't take it personally. It is what it is.
And
And
everyone's in their own journey, right? Like
yeah.
everyone's in a different part of their life. Some could be hormonally, some could be mentally, some can be emotionally. So,
Hmm.
I think that is also a part of compassion when it comes to understanding and not taking it personally. Like everyone's in their own space and their own journey. Now, is
Hmm.
it right for them to treat you shitty? Absolutely not. But
No.
um, you know, we have to sometimes take a step back and not punch people in the face. It's okay.
Well, yeah, but that's where you have to have that compassion and empathy for yourself, right? Because you don't have to
Right.
put up with it. And, you know, I'm probably this is one of my big issues I have to work on. I give great advice to people, but I don't take my own advice.
Yeah, me neither.
And so I think a
Remember.
lot of people have that problem. But if I were more compassionate with myself and I had more empathy for myself, man, I could walk away from some of those tough situations in my life
Yeah.
or difficult relationships or whatever. I mean, I'm
Yep.
guilty. I know I come across as a hard ass. And I'm like, oh, I'll just cut you off and I'll become indifferent. But, I mean, it does take me quite a while to get there. I would,
Yeah.
if I was more compassionate, sometimes I think I would probably do it sooner. But yeah, no, I mean, this was a great conversation. It is
Yes.
much needed. And I do thank everybody for, tuning in today. Next Wednesday, we're going to have another original podcast, which we will be talking about the signs and synchronicities, which is going to be a fun show, Jamie,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes we see these things and we're like, why do I keep seeing this? And we
Yes,
just
exactly.
and we're going to explore that a little bit and what it means and stuff like that.
Also, to bring awareness for people to pay attention to those signs and synchronicities and what the
Excellent point.
universe is trying to tell you.
Excellent point. That's right. That's right. And don't forget to check out our website, www.metaphysicalworldwide.com.
Yeah, there you can read our weekly blog, services, and you can even book a free 30-minute consultation. Also, do you feel the desire to help people? If so, you can enroll in our intuitive life coaching course. And remember, no matter where you are in your journey, our purpose is you.